The pounding on the door didn't sound like a neighbor. It sounded like trouble. Emily Carter jolted awake in the dark, heart slamming hard enough to hurt. The apartment was quiet except for one thing, a small, stubborn cough coming from the living room. Noah. Her little brother was supposed to be asleep on the couch because the bedroom air made his chest tighten. His inhaler sat beside him like a guard dog that never slept. Then the pounding came again, a fist, heavy, certain. Emily swung her legs out of bed and stepped onto the cold floor. Her phone lit up in her hand, the screen casting a pale glow on unpaid bills and a half-folded hospital uniform draped over a chair. It was 2:17 in the morning. The knocking hit a third time, louder, closer, like whoever stood outside was done being patient. Noah's voice floated from the couch, thin and scared. Emily forced her breathing to slow. She crossed the small room, careful not to trip on the stack of envelopes she'd been pretending not to see. She reached the door and pressed her eye to the peephole. Two men stood in the hallway, army uniforms. One had Captain Bars. The other stood half a step behind him, hands clasped, eyes forward. Both of them looked too steady for the hour, like sleep was a luxury they didn't need. Emily's throat went tight. She cracked the door open with the chain still latched, just enough to see, just enough to keep her heart from falling all the way through the floor. "Yes?" she whispered. The man in front spoke first, voice low and controlled. "Ma'am? Emily Carter?" Her fingers curled around the door edge. "Yes. I'm Captain Mason Reyes. This is Sergeant Collins." His gaze flicked past her shoulder into the dim apartment, and when he heard Noah's cough, something small tightened around his eyes. "We need to talk to you. It's important." Emily swallowed. "Is someone hurt?" Captain Reyes didn't answer right away. He reached into a folder tucked under his arm and pulled out a thick brown file. Across the front was a red stamp that made Emily's stomach twist. Classified. Her mouth went dry. Reyes held the folder steady, like he wanted her to really see it. "It's about a man named Samuel Briggs." Emily blinked. The name hit like a cold wind. Sam. The older man who sat outside Mercy Ridge Hospital, near the loading dock. The one people stepped around like he was part of the sidewalk. The one who never asked for anything but somehow looked like he carried too much. Emily's voice cracked. Is Sam okay?" Reyes lowered his tone, as if he didn't want Noah to hear. "He was found behind the hospital tonight. Injured. Cold. He's alive." He paused and Emily saw his jaw set. "But he's not doing well." Emily's hand flew to her mouth. She felt tears rise fast, hot and unwanted. Noah coughed again, deeper this time, and Emily's whole body flinched like a wire had snapped inside her. Sergeant Collins shifted slightly behind Reyes. He didn't speak, but his eyes moved around the apartment, landing on the medical bills, the worn shoes by the door, the empty pill bottle on the counter. Captain Reyes pulled out a separate envelope, older than the folder, corners bent and taped shut. It looked like it had been held too many times. Like it had lived in pockets and drawers and the bottom of a bag. On the front, in shaky handwriting, were 3 words, "For Nathan Blackwood." Emily's breath stopped. That name didn't belong in her apartment. It belonged on the side of a glass tower downtown. It belonged in news articles and hospital board meetings. It belonged to the man who could close an entire hospital wing with one cold vote. Nathan Blackwood. The billionaire everyone feared but no one said no to. Emily stared at the envelope until her eyes burned. "Why is his name on that?" Captain Reyes watched her face the way a doctor watches a monitor, like he was reading signals she didn't know she was sending. "You recognize him." "Everyone recognizes him," Emily whispered. Her voice sounded small in her own ears. Noah shifted on the couch. He sat up and hugged his blanket tight, eyes wide as he stared at the uniforms like they might turn into something worse. Emily forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Noah, honey, it's okay. Lay back down." Noah didn't move. His gaze stayed locked on the folder, on the red stamp, on Emily's hands shaking even though she was trying so hard to hide it. Captain Reyes spoke again, carefully. "Samuel Briggs asked for you by name." Emily's brows pulled together. "He barely knows me." Reyes opened the folder and set it gently on the small kitchen table. It took up almost the entire surface. The sound of paper sliding out felt too loud in the silence. He laid out photographs and reports, most of them covered in thick black lines, whole sentences swallowed by ink. But some parts were left exposed, and those parts felt like knives. One page held Emily's hospital badge photo. Her own face stared back at her, tired and serious, hair pulled tight, eyes trying not to look afraid. Emily's breath hitched. "How did you get that?" Reyes didn't flinch. "Your name appears in an old army file connected to Samuel Briggs. It shouldn't." His voice hardened a shade. "Not unless you were part of his life." Emily's chest tightened. "I met him outside the hospital. That's it. I gave him coffee once. I brought him a sandwich. She stopped because she heard how weak that sounded against the word classified. Reyes lifted another sheet and placed it on top. This one wasn't military. It was hospital paper, a barcode, a label, clean typed letters, Noah Carter. Emily felt the room tilt. Her knees went soft and she grabbed the table edge to keep herself standing. Her fingers were trembling so hard the paper rustled under them. "No," she whispered. "No! Why is my brother's name in there?" Captain Reyes held her eyes. "That's what we need you to help us understand." Emily shook her head slowly, like she could shake the truth loose and send it away. "He's a kid. He's sick, but he's just my brother." Noah slid off the couch and padded closer, bare feet quiet on the carpet. He peeked around the corner of the wall, blanket dragging behind him like a cape. He looked at the papers. Then he looked at Emily's face. "Em," he whispered, "are we in trouble?" Emily dropped to her knees in front of him, not because she planned to, but because her body couldn't hold her up anymore. In that moment, the whole room shifted. The soldiers were still tall. The folder was still heavy. Nathan Blackwood's name was still sharp and dangerous. But Noah was right there, small and scared, and Emily's world narrowed to the shape of his face. She cupped his cheeks with both hands. Her thumbs shook against his skin. "No, baby," she said, voice gentle, steady, even though her eyes were wet. "You're not in trouble. You're safe, okay?" Noah searched her eyes like he was trying to find the truth hiding behind them. He nodded once, but his mouth trembled. Captain Reyes watched Emily on the floor. His jaw tightened. His gaze flicked away for half a second, like he'd seen too many families kneel in moments like this. Emily lifted her eyes to him. "What did Sam do?" Reyes slid the old envelope across the table until it stopped near Emily's hand. "He made us promise something," he said. "If anything happened to him, we bring this to you." Emily stared at the taped flap. "Why me?" "Because Samuel Briggs believed you would do what he couldn't." Reyes paused, and the pause felt full of weight. He didn't trust the hospital. He didn't trust the board. He didn't trust Nathan Blackwood. Reyes leaned in slightly. "He trusted you." Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Sergeant Collins spoke for the first time, voice rough. "He kept saying the same line, ma'am." Emily's eyes snapped to him. What line? Colin swallowed, like the words tasted bitter. He said, don't let her pay for my silence. Emily's skin prickled. Her? Captain Reyes nodded toward the envelope. There's a letter inside, and an old photo. His voice dropped even lower. Whatever is in there ties Samuel Briggs to Nathan Blackwood, and somehow, it reaches into your brother's life. Emily's hand hovered over the envelope, but didn't touch it. Her fingers curled in the air, stuck between fear and need. Because if she opened it, she might learn something that broke her. But if she didn't, she might lose Noah. She looked down at her brother. Noah's eyes were glassy. His face was too pale. His breathing sounded like work. He blinked up at her and whispered, innocent and soft, "Is the letter gonna help me?" Emily's throat tightened so hard it hurt. She looked back at the folder on her table, at the red stamp, at the blacked out lines, at her own photo sitting there like proof she'd been pulled into something she never agreed to. And she realized in a quiet flash of panic that the army didn't come to the wrong door. They came to the exact right one. 3 months earlier, the air outside Mercy Ridge Hospital was sharp enough to sting. Emily stepped out after a long shift, shoulders aching, feet sore, her hair smelling like antiseptic and stress. The parking lot lights hummed overhead. Ambulance sirens moaned in the distance, fading and rising like a warning that never ended. Emily hugged her coat tight and headed toward the bus stop, already counting minutes, already thinking about Noah's next appointment, already hearing the hospital manager's voice in her head about cutbacks and efficiency. Then she saw him. By the loading dock, half hidden behind a dumpster, an older man sat on a milk crate. His hoodie was too thin for the cold. His hands were raw, his cheeks were hollow, and his eyes were sharp in a way that didn't match the rest of him, Samuel Briggs. Most people walked past like he was a shadow. Emily slowed. She didn't know why. Maybe it was because she'd spent all day watching people get treated like numbers. Maybe it was because Noah's face kept floating in her mind like a prayer she couldn't say out loud. She took one step toward the man. He looked up, and his face changed. Not warmth, not relief. Something harder. Like he'd been waiting for her. Like he didn't want to need her. He clutched a brown envelope against his chest. And Emily noticed the tape on the flap, the worn corners, the way his fingers held it like it mattered more than food. Emily swallowed and tried to sound normal. "Sir, are you okay?" Sam's eyes locked onto hers, unblinking, and his voice came out low and rough. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Emily's brows pulled together. "I work here." Sam's jaw tightened. His gaze flicked to her badge, then back to her eyes. And he said, so quietly, Emily almost didn't hear it, "You've got the same look as someone I promised to protect." And before Emily could ask what that meant, he turned his face away like he'd already said too much. If you're still here with me, tap like and subscribe right now. Because what's in that envelope changes everything. And tell me in the comments, if you were Emily, would you open that letter the same night the army showed up, or would you wait until morning? Emily didn't sleep after that first night. She tried. She sat on the edge of her bed with the brown envelope in her lap, the tape staring back at her like a dare. She listened to Noah breathe in the living room, counting each wheeze like it was money she didn't have. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the red stamp, classified, and that name, Nathan Blackwood. In the morning, she went to work anyway, because that's what people like Emily did. They showed up even when their hands shook. They smiled even when their insides were falling apart. Mercy Ridge Hospital smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. The fluorescent lights made everyone look a little sick, even the healthy ones. Emily walked in with her badge on and the envelope hidden deep in her bag, pressed between Noah's medical paperwork and an old sweater she used as a pillow on break days. She told herself she'd find Sam first. She told herself she'd hand him something warm, ask him what he meant, demand answers. But when she stepped outside near the loading dock, the milk crate was empty. No Sam. Just a wind that cut through her scrubs and a few cigarette butts crushed into the ice. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the spot where he'd been, like she could will him back into existence. Then a security guard shouted, "Ma'am, you can't be out here." Emily turned. "I'm staff. I don't care. This area is restricted." The guard pointed toward the street. "And tell your friend to stay off hospital property." Emily's jaw tightened. "He's not my friend." The guard gave her a look that said she'd already been labeled. The look people save for trouble, for poor, for someone who didn't belong. Emily stepped back inside before she said something that got her fired. She had rent. She had Noah. She had no room for pride. The day moved fast, like hospitals always did. Alarms, pages overhead, shoes squeaking on tile, nurses with tired eyes and clenched smiles. At noon, Emily went to Noah's floor to check on him before her shift got too busy. Noah was in a small room with a curtain half drawn. He sat up when he saw her, his face lighting for half a second before the fatigue dragged it down again. Emily tried to sound bright. "Hey, tough guy." Noah's lips twitched. "I'm not tough." "You are," she said, sitting beside him. She tucked the blanket up around his shoulders. Her fingers lingered a little too long because touching him was the only thing that made her feel real. He looked at her, careful. "Did the army come back?" Emily's stomach clenched. She forced her smile. "No, just rest." Noah nodded, then stared at the ceiling. His voice turned small. "I heard the nurse last night." Emily's heart thudded. "What did you hear?" Noah swallowed. "She said I might have to wait." Emily's throat tightened. "Wait for what?" Noah's eyes glistened. "For the special treatment." Emily's nails pressed into her palm. She kept her voice soft. "We're working on it." Noah turned his head and looked at her with that child honesty that always cut deeper than any adult insult. "Do we have money now?" Emily blinked fast. "Not yet." Noah stared a little longer, then asked the question he shouldn't have had to know how to ask. "Is that why people don't help?" Emily leaned forward and kissed his forehead. "No, people help. Sometimes they're just scared." Noah nodded, but his eyes didn't look convinced. Emily stood to leave and caught sight of something on the wall. A printed memo taped crookedly near the nurse's station. It was about budget changes, wing closure proposal, staff reductions, patient transfers. Emily felt her breath snag. She read it twice, then again, like the words might rearrange themselves into something kinder. Then she saw the signature at the bottom. Nathan Blackwood, not handwritten, printed, cold, final. Emily stood there with her chest tight, staring at that name like it was a fist around her throat. A nurse walked by and saw Emily's face. The nurse's expression softened for a moment, then hardened again, as if softness cost too much. "Don't look at that too long," the nurse muttered. "It'll ruin your day." Emily turned. "He's really closing the wing?" The nurse shrugged, eyes darting around like walls had ears. "He's not closing it. The board is closing it." Emily's voice trembled. "But it's his signature." The nurse gave a tiny, bitter smile. "That's how it works. Rich men don't have to touch the blood. They just sign the paper." Emily walked away before she cried in front of anyone. She went back downstairs and tried to do her job. She answered phones. She smiled at families. She handed out forms. She watched a mother argue with billing until her voice broke. And all the while, the envelope sat in her bag, heavy as a secret. That afternoon, the whole hospital seemed to tighten. People started whispering. Managers walked faster. Security guards stood straighter. Something was happening. Then Emily heard a name that made her blood run cold. "Blackwood is here." She looked up. Down the main hallway, a small crowd shifted like they were caught in a current. Nurses moved aside. Staff members straightened their uniforms. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Nathan Blackwood walked through the hospital like it belonged to him, because it did. He was tall, mid-40s maybe, wearing a dark coat that looked too expensive to be touched by rain. His hair was neatly combed. His face was carved into a calm that didn't break. Two men followed him with tablets. A woman in heels walked at his side like she was the crown on his head. Blonde hair, perfect makeup, a smile sharp enough to cut. Emily didn't know her name yet, but she recognized the type. The woman's eyes slid over the hallway, the patients, the tired nurses. Her expression didn't change, not pity, not concern, not even curiosity, just judgment. Nathan Blackwood stopped near the nurses' station, and the head administrator rushed up like a man trying not to drown. "Mr. Blackwood," the administrator said, laughing too hard, "we're honored. We weren't expecting you today." Nathan's voice was low, even. "Plans change." He looked around, eyes scanning faces like he was reading numbers on a chart. Emily felt something inside her rise. Anger, heat. The kind that came when you realized someone else was holding your life in their hand and didn't even know your name. The blonde woman spoke, her voice sweet and empty. "Nathan, darling, can we keep this quick? The gala committee is waiting, and the photographer wanted to catch us before sunset." Nathan didn't look at her. "This is quick." He turned his head and stared at the memo board with the wing closure proposal. His gaze didn't soften. If anything, it got sharper, like the sight pleased him. Then he said, "This wing is bleeding money." Emily's stomach dropped. He said it out loud, right there, where families could hear, where nurses had to swallow their rage. A nurse nearby froze, holding a clipboard. Her knuckles went white. Nathan continued, calm as a man ordering lunch. "We have to stop acting like emotions are a business plan." The blonde woman laughed lightly. "Exactly. Numbers don't cry." Her laugh echoed down the hallway and bounced off the white walls like something ugly. Emily felt her face heat. She stepped forward before her fear could stop her. The nurse manager, a hard-faced woman named Karen Doyle, caught Emily's sleeve and hissed under her breath, "Don't!" Emily's voice came out anyway, quiet but firm. "Excuse me." Nathan Blackwood turned slowly. His eyes landed on Emily like she was a speck of dust he hadn't noticed before. "Yes?" he asked. Emily swallowed. She could feel everyone watching. She could feel her job dangling by a thread. "My brother is on this floor," she said, forcing the words out clean. "He needs treatment. If this wing closes, he'll be transferred. He can't handle that." Nathan's expression didn't shift. Not a flicker of sympathy, not an apology, nothing. "What's his diagnosis?" he asked like he was ordering a file. Emily's throat tightened. "His heart and lungs, the doctor said he needs—" Nathan lifted a hand, stopping her. "I don't do exceptions." Emily stared at him. "He's a child." Nathan's eyes held hers, cold and steady. "And this is a hospital, not a charity." The blonde woman leaned in, smiling. "Sweetheart, you're very emotional, but that's not how the world works." Emily's jaw clenched. She felt tears burning, but refused to let them fall. Karen Doyle stepped in fast, voice sharp. "Emily, go back to your station." Emily didn't move. Nathan's gaze narrowed just a fraction. "Employee?" Karen nodded too quickly. "Yes, sir. She's tired." Nathan's tone stayed smooth. "Tell your staff to remember their place." Emily felt the humiliation like a slap. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. She could taste metal in her mouth. Then the blonde woman tilted her head, eyes shining with something mean. "Also," she added casually, "we've been getting complaints about certain people outside." Emily's spine went rigid. The woman continued, voice light. "Homeless men near the loading dock. Patients don't want to see that. It makes the hospital look unsafe." Nathan didn't even blink. "Remove them!" Emily's heart dropped. She heard Sam's voice in her mind. "You shouldn't be here." She took a step forward. "There's an older man outside, Sam. He's not hurting anyone. He's sick. Nathan's eyes hardened. "Security handles that." Emily's voice rose despite her. "He's a veteran." The blonde woman laughed again, sharper this time. "That doesn't make him your responsibility." Nathan looked away from Emily as if she'd stopped existing. He turned back to the administrator. "I want the wing closure timeline finalized today." The administrator nodded, sweating. "Yes, sir." Nathan started walking again, the blonde woman gliding beside him, heels clicking like punctuation. Emily stood frozen, humiliation and fury twisting together in her chest. Karen grabbed her arm, hard. "What were you thinking?" Emily's eyes burned. "I was thinking my brother is going to die while that man worries about a gala." Karen's face tightened, but something flickered in her eyes. Not approval, not softness. Something like understanding she didn't want to admit. "Get back to work," Karen said, quieter now, "before you lose your job." Emily pulled her arm away and walked fast, because if she stayed still, she would break. She rushed down the hallway to Noah's room, her breath coming in shallow gasps. When she reached the door, she froze. Noah was sitting up, staring at the window. His small hand was pressed against his chest like he was trying to hold something inside. Emily stepped closer. "Noah?" Noah turned his head slowly. His lips looked a little blue. His eyes were watery. "I tried to be quiet," he whispered. "But it hurts!" Emily felt terror shoot through her like electricity. "Nurse!" she shouted, voice cracking. "I need help!" A nurse rushed in, another followed. They moved fast, but Emily saw the fear on their faces, real fear. Noah coughed, and the sound was wet and wrong. His body shook like it couldn't carry the weight of his own breath. Emily grabbed his hand. "Stay with me, okay? Stay with me." Noah looked at her with that same clear, innocent truth, and he whispered, "Did the rich man say no?" Emily's throat closed. She couldn't answer. The nurse pushed Emily gently back. "We need space." Emily stumbled into the hallway, pressed against the wall, watching through the half-open door as they worked on her brother. Her hand flew into her bag without thinking. Her fingers touched the brown envelope, the tape, the weight of it, Nathan Blackwood's name. Emily's eyes filled with tears she didn't wipe away this time, because in that moment she understood something awful. She could beg, she could plead, she could do everything right and still lose, so she did. The only thing left. She turned away from Noah's door and walked fast and shaking down the hallway toward the loading dock, toward the place Sam always sat, toward the only person who might know why the army came to her door. She pushed through the exit into the freezing air and she stopped. The milk crate was there, but Sam wasn't. Only a single glove lay on the ground, stiff with cold, and beside it, a fresh smear of blood on the concrete. If this story is making your heart race, hit like and subscribe right now. And tell me in the comments, have you ever begged someone powerful for help and been turned away? When I continue, you'll see what Emily finds when she follows that blood trail. Nathan Blackwood didn't raise his voice in meetings. He didn't have to. The boardroom at Blackwood Health sat on the top floor of a glass tower that reflected the city like a cold mirror. The table was long enough to feel like distance. The chairs were leather. The water was served in crystal. Nothing in that room smelled like a hospital. No bleach, no sweat, no fear, only money. Nathan sat at the head of the table, sleeves perfect, posture easy, face calm. A screen behind him showed graphs and numbers moving like heartbeats with no heart behind them. Across from him, executives flipped pages, lawyers tapped pens. A consultant spoke too fast, like speed could make bad news feel smarter. Nathan listened without blinking. One man cleared his throat. Mercy Ridge is operating above budget again. Nathan's eyes stayed on the screen. Of course it is. Another executive leaned forward. Closing the wing will free up. Nathan lifted a hand slightly. Not dramatic, just enough. The room quieted instantly. He spoke in a voice that didn't invite argument. I don't want to hear free up. I want to hear stop the bleeding. A few heads nodded, like praying for approval. The consultant clicked to a slide. If we accelerate the closure and redirect critical cases to partner facilities, we reduce liability and improve. Nathan's gaze narrowed a fraction. Liability is not the same as morality. The room paused as if morality was an unexpected word in that space. Then Nathan continued, cold again. But morality doesn't keep doors open. Costs do. A man at the far end shifted. We'll have backlash. Nathan's eyes moved to him, slow and sharp. Backlash is noise. Bankruptcy is death. Someone chuckled nervously. It didn't sound like humor. It sounded like fear trying to survive. The door opened softly. Sloan Whitman walked in like she belonged to the building as much as the elevator did. Her heels made a clean, confident sound. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was warm in the way a knife handle can be warm. She leaned down and kissed Nathan's cheek, not for him, but for the room to see. Sorry, she said sweetly. Traffic was awful. Nathan didn't react. Sit. Sloan took the seat to his right, crossing her legs with practiced ease. She glanced at the screen and made a small face. Hospital numbers again? Nathan didn't answer. He nodded once to the consultant. Continue. The consultant clicked again. Staff reductions will be necessary. We can frame it as modernization. Sloan's lips curved. Modernization is such a good word. It sounds clean. Nathan's jaw tightened, almost invisible. Don't confuse clean with kind. Sloan's smile didn't move. Kind doesn't scale, Nathan. You taught me that. Nathan held her gaze for one beat too long. His eyes were flat. Then he turned back to the table. Timeline. The consultant cleared his throat. We can finalize within a week. The sooner we act, the less time the public has to organize. Nathan nodded once. Do it. A lawyer flipped pages. We should also address the issue outside Mercy Ridge, the homeless presence. It's being photographed. It undermines the brand. Nathan's eyes stayed forward. Security can remove them. Sloan leaned closer, voice low but loud enough for the room to catch. Especially that older one. He's been lingering near the loading dock. Patients see him. Donors see him. It's embarrassing. Nathan's fingers paused on the table. Just a pause. A small, strange stillness. Then he asked, Name? The lawyer hesitated. We don't have one. He's unregistered. Sloan waved her hand, dismissive. It doesn't matter. He's nobody. Nathan didn't look at her, but his thumb pressed once against the edge of his pen, hard enough that the knuckle whitened. The consultant kept speaking. There is another matter, sir. We received a flagged entry from Mercy Ridge this morning. Nathan finally looked up. Flagged? The consultant tapped his tablet. A patient transfer request was denied twice, then refiled under emergency. The system marked it because the attending physician wrote a personal appeal. That's unusual. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Show me. The consultant turned the tablet toward him. Nathan read quickly, efficiently. His face didn't change, but his jaw locked, just a fraction. Sloan leaned in to peek. What is it? Nathan didn't answer her. He read the name on the screen. Noah Carter. He didn't recognize it at first, not truly. Names like that didn't live in his world. Then he saw the note attached to it. A short plea from a physician, Dr. Laura Bennett. The words were simple, desperate, human. Child is declining. Transfer risk is high. Treatment window is closing. Please reconsider. Nathan stared at the screen long enough that the room fell into silence again. The consultant shifted nervously. Sir? Nathan's eyes moved to the second line. Financial status. Insurance pending. Balance overdue. He exhaled once through his nose, controlled. Denied. Sloan smiled, relieved. Good. Nathan's gaze flicked to her. Not warm, not loving, not even angry, just measuring. A lawyer cleared his throat. We also have a social media concern. A staff member confronted you yesterday in the hallway. It was filmed from a distance. Sloan's eyes flashed. Of course it was, the lawyer continued. The clip is blurry, but it shows your presence at Mercy Ridge and a young staff member speaking to you. If the wrong channel picks it up, it becomes a story. Nathan's voice was calm. Find the staff member, warn administration, no public statement. Sloan leaned back, satisfied. I told you, these people don't understand boundaries. Nathan didn't respond. Instead, he stared at the name again, Noah Carter. Something about it wouldn't settle. Not guilt, not compassion, something else. Like a thread snagged on the inside of his mind. He pushed the tablet back. Next item. The consultant clicked, relieved to move on. The gala. Sloan brightened immediately. Finally. She turned to Nathan, eyes shining. The photographer asked if we can do a quick engagement shot at the hospital next week. It makes you look generous. Nathan's mouth stayed flat. No. Sloan blinked. Why not? Because I don't do charity theater. Sloan's smile tightened. Nathan, optics matter. Nathan's voice lowered. So does truth. Sloan's eyes sharpened. Truth is what we tell people. Nathan looked at her again, and for a second the room felt colder. Then he stood. The meeting ended because he stood. Men gathered papers, chairs scraped, people moved like he'd pulled a string. Sloan rose beside him, slipping her hand into the crook of his arm like a claim. As they walked toward the elevator, one of Nathan's assistants hurried up, breathless. Sir, we received a call from Mercy Ridge Security. An incident behind the loading dock. Nathan didn't slow. What kind of incident? The assistant swallowed. They found blood and a glove. The homeless man is missing. Sloan scoffed. Wonderful. Now we'll have a crime scene on our property. That's exactly what I meant. Nathan's eyes stayed forward. Missing? The assistant nodded. Yes, sir, but there's more. Nathan finally stopped walking. The sudden halt made Sloan stumble half a step. Her hand tightened on his arm. Nathan turned slowly. "More." The assistant lowered his voice. "2 military personnel came to the hospital last night. They spoke to someone off-site. Not sure who, but it set off a notification in the network because a classified tag got scanned in a non-secure location." Sloan's face tightened. "Military? At the hospital?" Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Who did they speak to?" The assistant hesitated. "A name came through on the log, but it's incomplete. The system only caught part of it." Nathan's gaze sharpened. "Say it." The assistant swallowed hard. "Carter." Nathan's expression stayed controlled, but his hand flexed once at his side. Carter. He remembered the young woman in the hallway, eyes burning with anger, speaking about a child. He remembered the way she stood in front of him like she had nothing to lose. He remembered her face, wet with held-back tears. Sloan leaned in, voice annoyed. "It's probably nothing. Some staff member with delusions. Don't let it distract you." Nathan didn't answer. He turned and walked into the elevator. And when the doors closed, the reflection of his face in the polished metal looked almost the same as always. Almost. But there was a small crack in the calm. A tightness around the eyes. A question he didn't want to ask, because questions made you feel, and feeling made you weak. Back at Mercy Ridge, Emily followed the blood trail like her fear had turned into legs. It wasn't a trail in the dramatic way people imagined. It was small drops, spaced out. Like someone had tried not to bleed. Like someone had tried not to be found. She crouched near the loading dock and touched the concrete with trembling fingers. Fresh, not old. Her stomach turned. "Sam!" she whispered, voice breaking. "Sam, where are you?" A shadow moved behind a trash container. Emily's whole body froze. She stood slowly, heart pounding so loud she thought it might bring security running. "Sam?" she called again, softer this time. A low voice answered, ragged, "Don't come closer." Emily's eyes filled instantly. "Oh my God!" Samuel Briggs stepped out, leaning hard on the wall. His face was bruised. One eye was swelling shut. His breathing was shallow and angry, like each breath hurt him. His hand clutched his side. Blood seeped through his fingers. Emily rushed forward anyway. "You're hurt. We need to get you inside." Sam's eyes snapped to hers, sharp even through pain. "No." Emily's voice shook with fury and fear. "You'll die out here." Sam's jaw tightened. That might be the point. Emily stared at him, stunned. "Who did this to you?" Sam didn't answer. His gaze flicked to the hospital doors, then to the street, then back to Emily's face. "You have it?" he asked. Emily swallowed. "What?" "The envelope," he rasped. "Tell me you have it." Emily's hand flew to her bag. She nodded. "Yes. Why?" "Sam, what is going on?" Sam's eyes glistened, and for a second his tough mask slipped. He looked old, tired, like he'd been carrying something heavy for decades. He whispered, "Because if you don't get it to him, that boy inside is going to pay for my silence." Emily's breath caught. "Noah!" Sam's eyes held hers. "Listen to me." His voice trembled with urgency. "You don't know what that man has done. You don't know what he owes, and you don't know what they'll do to keep it buried." Emily shook her head, tears falling now. "Who is they?" Sam's hand trembled as he pushed himself upright, pain ripping across his face. "The people who think money is the same thing as power." Emily's chest tightened. "Nathan Blackwood." Sam didn't say the name. He didn't need to. He just looked at her the way a man looks at the edge of a cliff and knows there's no safe way down. Emily whispered, "Why me?" Sam's eyes softened just a little. Because you still do the right thing when nobody is looking. Emily shook her head. I'm not brave. I'm scared. Sam's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Good. Brave people aren't the ones who aren't scared. He swallowed hard. Brave people are the ones who move anyway. Emily wiped her face with the sleeve of her scrubs. What is Noah to him? Sam's face tightened. His eyes went distant, like he was seeing something old and painful. Then he said, barely louder than the wind, Noah is the consequence. Emily felt her blood turn cold. Consequence of what? Before Sam could answer, a door slammed somewhere behind them. A loud voice barked, Hey! Security. Emily spun. 2 guards were coming fast, radios in hand, eyes sharp. Sam's body tensed, like an animal cornered. Emily stepped between Sam and the guards without thinking. One guard pointed. There he is. Sir, you can't be here. Emily shouted, He's hurt. He needs help. The guard's eyes flicked to her badge. Emily, step away. Emily's voice broke. He's bleeding. The guard's jaw tightened. Orders came down. Nobody outside. Nobody loitering. We call police if we have to. Emily stared at him, stunned. Orders from who? The guard didn't answer, but his eyes flicked upward, toward the building, toward power. Sam's hand grabbed Emily's wrist, rough and urgent. Don't fight them, he whispered. Not yet. Emily's breath shook. Sam! Sam pushed something into her palm. Cold metal, a dog tag. It was old, scratched, but the name was still readable. Samuel Briggs, and beneath it, a number, not 9 digits. Not a social security number, a military service number. Emily's throat tightened. She looked up at Sam. Sam's voice was low. If I disappear, he swallowed pain. You take that envelope to Nathan Blackwood yourself. You don't hand it to the hospital. You don't give it to the board. You don't tell your manager. Emily's eyes widened. I can't just walk into his tower. Sam's gaze locked onto hers. You can, because you're the only one he can't ignore. The guards grabbed Sam's arms. Sam didn't fight them. He just stared at Emily as they pulled him away, his bruised face tight with effort. Emily shouted, Stop! He needs a doctor! One guard snapped, Not your call! Sam's voice rose one last time, raw and urgent, as he was dragged toward the service exit. Emily! He shouted, Don't let the boy die for my silence! Then the door slammed, and Sam was gone. Emily stood there shaking, the dog tag biting into her palm, the brown envelope heavy in her bag like it was alive. Behind her, in the hospital, her brother was struggling to breathe. Above her, in a glass tower, a billionaire was being told a classified file had touched a name he couldn't place. And for the first time in years, Nathan Blackwood felt something he hated. A question he couldn't bury. If you're still watching, hit like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, do you think Emily should risk her job and confront Nathan Blackwood face to face? Emily didn't go back inside right away. She stood by the loading dock with her fingers locked around the dog tag until the cold metal hurt. Her breath came out in short bursts. Her eyes kept flashing to the service door where Sam had vanished, like the door might open and return him if she stared hard enough, but it stayed shut. And somewhere upstairs, Noah was fighting for air. Emily pressed the dog tag to her chest as if it could hold her together, then shoved it into her pocket and ran. She pushed through the hospital doors, sprinting past the gift shop, past confused visitors, past a nurse calling her name. She didn't stop until she reached Noah's floor. The hallway was louder now. More footsteps, more voices, more urgency. Noah's curtain was pulled back. 2 nurses moved around his bed with quick, practiced hands. A monitor beeped in a rhythm that sounded wrong to Emily's ears. Dr. Laura Bennett stood at the foot of the bed, her face tight, eyes focused, mouth set like she was holding back anger. Emily stepped closer and the nurse held out a hand. "Emily, you can't—" "It's my brother," Emily rasped. Dr. Bennett turned and her expression softened for half a second. Then it hardened again with the kind of exhaustion that comes from being told no too many times. "He's declining," Bennett said. "We have to move faster." Emily's voice cracked. "Then move faster." Bennett's eyes flashed. "I'm trying." "The treatment he needs is available. The slot exists. The team exists." She lowered her voice. "But the approval is being held." Emily's knees went weak. "Held by who?" Bennett didn't say the name. She didn't have to. Emily looked past her into the room, to Noah's face. He was trying to be brave. Emily could see it. His lips pressed together, his brow tight, his small hand gripping the blanket like it was a rope keeping him from falling. Noah's eyes found Emily, and even through the oxygen mask, he tried to smile. Emily's heart broke open. She stepped to his bedside and took his hand. His fingers were cold, too cold. "Hey," she whispered, "I'm here." Noah's eyes blinked slowly. He pointed weakly at her pocket. Emily froze. "What?" Noah's gaze stayed on her pocket, and his voice came out thin under the mask. "The metal." Emily's throat tightened. He'd noticed the dog tag, even now. She didn't know whether to cry or laugh at how sharp he was. "It's nothing," she lied softly. Noah's eyes didn't believe her. He squeezed her hand, just once, weak but clear. Dr. Bennett leaned in. "Emily," her voice dropped, "if we don't get approval within the next day, he may not qualify for the procedure. His body won't tolerate it." Emily's head spun. "So what do I do?" Bennett's jaw tightened. "You do what this system won't." She swallowed. "You fight." Emily looked around the hallway. Nurses were busy. Families were hunched in chairs. A mother across from her was praying silently, hands clasped, eyes squeezed shut. Emily felt something settle in her chest. Not calm, not bravery, decision. She leaned down close to Noah. "Listen to me," she whispered. "You stay with Dr. Bennett. You do exactly what she says, and you keep breathing, okay? You keep breathing because you're not leaving me." Noah blinked, eyes glossy. "Where are you going?" Emily kissed his forehead. "I'm going to get you help." Noah's lips moved under the mask. "From the rich man?" Emily's throat tightened again. She didn't answer. She couldn't promise something she might fail, but she squeezed his hand hard. "I'm going to try." Noah's eyes searched hers. Then he whispered, innocent and painfully honest, "Tell him I said please." Emily closed her eyes for half a second, because that one word cut deeper than anything. Please. She stood up before she could fall apart and turned to Dr. Bennett. "Where is he?" Bennett's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Emily's voice turned steady. "Nathan Blackwood." Bennett hesitated, then said the words like she was stepping off a cliff with Emily. "He has an office suite in the hospital, 4th floor, administrative wing. Security will try to stop you." Emily nodded once. "Then I won't ask." She left Noah's room on legs that didn't feel like hers. As she walked, her mind replayed the moment Nathan had looked through her like she was nothing. It replayed Sloan's laugh. It replayed the guards dragging Sam away. Emily's hands shook, but she kept walking. The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor with a soft chime, like nothing terrible had ever happened in a hospital. The administrative wing was a different world. The carpet was thicker. The lights were warmer. The air smelled like polished wood instead of sickness. Emily's shoes sounded too loud. A receptionist sat behind a desk with a perfect smile and an empty gaze. She looked up as Emily approached. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked. Emily forced her voice to stay even. "I need to see Mr. Blackwood." The receptionist's smile didn't move. "Do you have an appointment?" Emily swallowed. "No." The receptionist's eyes flicked to Emily's badge. Her voice turned flat. "Then you cannot." Emily leaned closer, lowering her voice. "My brother is on the critical list. His approval is being held. I need him to sign." The receptionist's face stayed calm. "That is not how approvals work." Emily's jaw tightened. "Then tell me how my brother's life works, because I'm watching it slip away." The receptionist blinked once. "You need to go back to your station, miss." Emily's pulse roared in her ears. She glanced down the hallway. Glass doors, frosted panels, a nameplate on one of them. Nathan Blackwood. Emily didn't think. She walked around the desk. The receptionist's voice sharpened. "Excuse me." Emily kept going. A security guard stepped out of a side hall. "Ma'am, you need to stop." Emily held up a hand. Not to obey, but to buy one more second. "Please, just let me talk to him. 1 minute." The guard's face tightened. "You're not authorized." Emily's breath shook. "My brother isn't authorized to breathe either, but he's still trying." The guard hesitated. Not long. Just long enough for Emily to slip past him. She pushed open the door to Nathan Blackwood's suite. The room was quiet. Too quiet for a hospital. Nathan stood by a wall of windows, looking down at the city like he owned the air above it. His jacket was off. His sleeves were rolled to the forearm. He held a phone in one hand, listening to someone talk numbers. He turned when the door opened, eyes snapping toward the sound. For a second, his face showed surprise. Real surprise. His brows lifted slightly. His mouth parted like he wasn't used to being interrupted. Then his expression closed again, fast. Ice. "Who are you?" he asked. Emily's chest rose and fell once. She stepped into the room and shut the door behind her, not to trap him, but because she couldn't handle the hallway watching her beg. "I'm Emily Carter," she said. "I work downstairs. You met me yesterday." Nathan's eyes narrowed, focusing. He remembered. She saw it in the small tightening at the edge of his jaw. He lowered the phone slowly and ended the call without a word. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. Emily nodded once. "I know." Nathan took a step toward her, not aggressive, just controlled. "Why are you here?" Emily's voice trembled for a moment, then steadied. "My brother is dying." Nathan didn't blink. "Many people are dying." Emily flinched, but she forced herself to keep going. "His name is Noah Carter. He needs a procedure. Your system is holding approval." Nathan's gaze flickered. Just a flicker. Noah Carter. He'd seen the name. Emily noticed the flicker and stepped closer, just a little. "Dr. Bennett wrote an appeal. You denied it." Nathan's jaw tightened. "We follow policy." Emily swallowed. "Policy doesn't hold his hand when he can't breathe." Nathan's voice stayed calm. "Your emotion is not an argument." Emily's eyes stung. "And your money is not a heart." Nathan's eyes sharpened. "Careful." Emily's hands shook as she reached into her bag and pulled out the brown envelope. Nathan's gaze snapped to it. Not curiosity, recognition. Like something in him already knew that object. Emily held it out. "This is for you." Nathan's face didn't change, but his hands stopped moving. For the first time, he didn't look like the man in control of every room. He looked like a man who had been handed a ghost. "Where did you get that?" he asked. Emily's throat tightened. From someone you call nobody. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Name. Emily's voice dropped. Samuel Briggs. Nathan went still. Not dramatic. Just still. The air between them changed. His eyes fixed on the envelope like it could explode. Emily watched his face carefully, his jaw locked. His throat moved once like he swallowed something bitter. His fingers flexed at his side, and for the first time, Emily saw it. Not cruelty, fear. Nathan's voice came out lower. You shouldn't be carrying that. Emily's anger flared. Sam is bleeding and missing because of it. My brother is dying because of it. And you're worried about what I'm carrying? Nathan's eyes flashed, sharp as steel. You don't understand what you're holding. Emily stepped forward and thrust the envelope closer. Then explain it to me, because I'm done being confused. Nathan stared at her for a long beat. Then he reached out slowly, as if taking it might burn him. His fingers touched the taped flap, and his hand trembled. Just once, small, but real. Nathan Blackwood noticed it too. His eyes narrowed at his own hand like it had betrayed him. Emily's voice softened despite herself. He said, "Don't let her pay for my silence." Nathan's face tightened. His eyes flicked up to hers. He said that? Emily nodded. And the army came to my apartment. Nathan's brows pulled together. The army? Emily swallowed. 2 soldiers. A classified file. They knew my name. They knew Noah's name. Nathan's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. His eyes moved past Emily as if he was looking at something far away. Then he said, quietly, like he hated the words. Why would they go to you? Emily's voice broke. That's what I'm asking. Nathan stood there holding the envelope. And for the first time, his money couldn't fix the moment. He couldn't buy a way out of what was inside. He couldn't command the truth to stay buried. He couldn't make Emily disappear with a signature because she was right in front of him and she wasn't leaving. A knock hit the door behind Emily, not like the pounding on Emily's apartment. This knock was polite, owned. A voice followed, sweet as sugar. Nathan, it's me. Sloan. Nathan's eyes flicked to the door. Something in his face tightened. Emily's stomach dropped. She knew that voice. The door handle turned. Nathan didn't move fast enough. Sloan stepped in. Her eyes landed on Emily first, then on the envelope in Nathan's hand, and her smile froze, just for a second. Then it returned, sharper. Well, Sloan said, voice light, eyes cold. This is unexpected. She took a slow step closer, gaze fixed on the envelope like it offended her. What is that? She asked. Nathan didn't answer. Emily did. It's something you tried to erase. Sloan laughed softly. Sweetheart, I don't even know who you are. Emily's voice shook with fury. You don't need to know my name to hurt me. You already did. Sloan's eyes flicked to Nathan. Why is she here? Nathan's jaw tightened. Leave! Sloan blinked as if she wasn't used to that word. Excuse me? Nathan's voice hardened. Leave. Now. Sloan's smile tightened again, but she didn't move. Instead, she looked at the envelope and then back at Nathan, like she was doing math in her head. Her voice turned low. That man outside, the one security removed. This is about him, isn't it? Nathan didn't answer. Sloan's eyes sharpened. Nathan. Nathan's gaze stayed on the envelope. His thumb rubbed the tape once, like he was remembering something painful. Emily watched his face and realized something. He wasn't reading yet. He was hesitating. Like opening it would change him. Noah's voice flashed in Emily's mind. Tell him I said please. Emily's eyes filled with tears again. But she didn't wipe them. She stepped closer to Nathan, lowering herself slightly, not in weakness, but in a way that forced him to look at her, not through her. "My brother asked me to tell you something," she whispered. Nathan's eyes lifted to hers. Emily swallowed hard. "He said please." Nathan's face changed. Not soft, not kind, but something cracked. His jaw tightened. His eyes glistened for half a second, then he looked away like he hated his own reaction. Sloan's voice snapped sharp. "Nathan, don't!" Nathan's fingers tightened around the envelope. Emily could hear her own heartbeat. Nathan stared at the taped flap. Then he finally said, voice low and rough, "Where is the boy?" Emily's breath caught. "Downstairs. Critical wing." Nathan's eyes flicked to Sloan. "Stay here." Sloan's mouth fell open. "What?" "No." Nathan's voice turned cold again, but different. Not cold toward Emily, cold toward Sloan. "Stay," he repeated. Sloan's eyes flashed with anger. "You're choosing her over me?" Nathan didn't answer. He moved. He walked past Emily toward the door, the envelope in his hand like a weight he couldn't put down anymore. Emily followed him, without thinking. Sloan's voice rose behind them, sweet turned poisonous. "Nathan, if you walk out that door with that, you are ruining everything." Nathan stopped with his hand on the door. For a beat, he didn't turn around. Then he said quietly, "Maybe everything needs to be ruined." He opened the door, and the moment he stepped into the hospital hallway, the air hit him differently. Not polished wood, not quiet, but life, noise, crying, fear, prayer. Emily watched the billionaire's face as the world he controlled with numbers rushed up to meet him. He didn't look comfortable. He looked exposed. And for the first time, that exposure made him smaller. Not in money, in soul. If you're feeling this turn, hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, do you think Nathan is truly changing, or is he just scared of what's in that envelope? Nathan walked fast, but not like a man chasing a deal, like a man chasing time. Emily kept close behind him, her shoes slipping a little on the polished floor. People stared as they passed. Nurses, administrators, a couple of visitors who recognized his face and whispered. Nathan didn't look at them. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. His eyes stayed locked forward, jaw tight, shoulders stiff, like he was holding himself together by force. When they reached the critical wing, the air changed. It wasn't quiet here. It was alive with panic. Machines beeped. A woman cried softly in a chair by the wall. A nurse hurried past with a stack of forms pressed to her chest. Nathan slowed, just a little, as if the reality of it hit him in the ribs. Emily didn't slow. She pushed past him and went straight to Noah's room. Noah was sitting up, oxygen mask on, eyes glossy. His cheeks looked hollow. His small fingers picked at the edge of his blanket like he was trying to keep his hands busy so he wouldn't feel scared. When he saw Emily, his eyes lifted. When he saw Nathan behind her, his eyes widened. Nathan stopped at the doorway. He didn't step in right away. He stood there and stared at the boy on the bed like he didn't know where to put his hands, like he'd walked into a room he couldn't control. Emily's voice shook. "This is Noah." Noah looked from Emily to Nathan, then back again, confused and tired. His eyes slid down Nathan's suit, the clean shoes, the expensive watch. Then Noah whispered through the mask, "Are you the rich man?" Nathan's throat moved, like he swallowed. His eyes flicked down and then up again, and for a split second, his face didn't look like a billionaire. It looked like a man caught. He stepped inside slowly. Dr. Laura Bennett stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, face tight. She looked at Nathan with zero awe. "You're late," she said. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Dr. Bennett didn't flinch. You want facts? Here's one. Your delay is costing him oxygen. So yes, you're late. Emily held her breath. Nathan stared at the doctor. His jaw clenched. Then his gaze dropped to Noah again. Noah's eyes were fixed on him, not accusing, not angry, just waiting. Nathan took another step, then another, and stopped beside the bed. He looked down at Noah's small hand on the blanket, and without thinking too hard, he lowered himself. He knelt on the hospital floor. Emily felt her chest tighten because she had never seen a man like him do that. Not for anyone. Not in public. Not in a place that smelled like sickness and fear. Nathan's voice came out quieter. Hello, Noah. Noah blinked slowly. Hi. Nathan's hand hovered over the bed rail like he didn't know if he had the right to touch anything in this room. Noah watched him carefully, then whispered, Did you say no? Emily's stomach dropped. Nathan's eyes flickered. His jaw locked. He didn't lie. He didn't confess either. He said, I didn't understand. Noah stared at him, breathing hard. It hurts. Nathan's face tightened. Something wet flashed in his eyes so fast he almost hit it. Dr. Bennett slid a folder onto the bed, open to a page with highlighted lines and clipped notes. He needs approval, she said. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Nathan reached for the folder, then stopped. His hand trembled again, just once. Emily saw it. Nathan saw it too. He pressed his fingers into a fist like he could crush the shake out of himself. Then he took the folder, read it quickly, and said, What's the fastest path? Dr. Bennett's voice softened, just a shade. Sign the clearance. Release the hold. Let my team do our job. Nathan nodded once. Bring me what I need. Emily's breath caught. Hope rose so fast it scared her. Noah's eyes filled. Will I get to go home? Nathan looked at him, and his mouth tightened in a way that looked like pain. That's the plan. Noah stared at Nathan's face, then whispered, My sister said you don't have a heart. Emily flinched. Noah! Noah kept going, innocent and blunt. Do you? The room went still. Nathan froze, kneeling on that floor. His eyes locked on Noah's, his jaw clenched hard, his throat moved again. Then quietly he said, I'm trying to find it. Emily felt tears come hot and sudden, and then the door opened. Sloan walked in like she owned the hallway. Behind her were 2 hospital administrators and a security guard. A second guard lingered near the door. Their faces were stiff, professional, prepared. Sloan's eyes landed on Nathan kneeling on the floor. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. What is this? She asked, voice sweet and sharp at the same time. Nathan didn't stand right away. He looked up slowly. Leave. Sloan tilted her head as if he'd spoken in the wrong language. Nathan, there are donors in the lobby. A board member flew in this morning. People are asking where you are. Nathan rose, controlled, brushing nothing off his suit even though he'd been kneeling on a hospital floor. He didn't look embarrassed. He looked angry. This isn't a photo, he said. This is a child. Sloan's eyes flicked to Noah, then away, fast, like looking too long might stain her. And this is a hospital, she replied lightly. And that employee, she nodded at Emily without using her name, has violated protocol. Emily's mouth went dry. What? One administrator cleared his throat. Miss Carter, you entered a restricted suite without permission. There are concerns you accessed private materials. Emily's hands clenched. I came to save my brother. Sloan's voice stayed smooth. And you dragged Nathan into it with a dramatic scene. She looked at the administrators. I warned you. This is why you can't let staff get emotional. Dr. Bennett's eyes flashed. Don't call this emotional. It's medical. Sloan ignored her. She turned to Nathan, lowering her voice as if she was being kind. Nathan, you're being pulled into a mess. This girl is unstable. The army showed up at her apartment. Do you understand how that sounds? Emily's head snapped up. Don't you dare. Sloan's gaze met hers. Cold. Don't I dare what? Tell the truth? She turned back to the administrators. She has a classified envelope. She brought it into your building. That is a security issue, a legal issue. Nathan's eyes narrowed. That envelope is mine. Sloan's smile tightened. Is it? Emily's breath shook. Sam gave it to me. He's hurt. He's missing. Sloan's brows lifted. Sam? She let out a soft laugh. You mean the homeless man who has been trespassing on hospital property for months? Emily stepped forward, shaking. He's a veteran. Sloan's voice stayed calm, almost bored. That doesn't mean he gets to poison Nathan's life. Dr. Bennett's face went pale with fury. This is a child's room. Sloan finally looked at Bennett. And I'm protecting the man who funds this place. She looked back at Nathan, eyes bright and sharp. If you don't control this, the board will. They will frame you as reckless. They will say you were manipulated by staff. Nathan's jaw tightened. Emily watched him, begging silently for him not to fold. Not now. Not when Noah was right there. Noah's breathing turned faster, anxious. His eyes darted between the adults. His small hand clutched the blanket. Emily stepped back toward him, trying to shield him from the tension like she could block words with her body. One administrator spoke again, careful. Mr. Blackwood, we've received complaints. There are recordings in the hallway. People are saying staff is pressuring you. Sloan's eyes gleamed. See? This is turning into a scandal. Nathan's face didn't change, but his eyes flickered. A tiny crack, a flash of calculation. Emily saw it and her stomach dropped. Nathan looked at Noah, then at the administrators, then at Sloan. He was doing what he always did, weighing. But now he wasn't weighing money. He was weighing a child's life against his own image. Dr. Bennett shoved the folder forward again, voice urgent. We do not have time for politics. Sloan cut in softly. We do not have time for mistakes, doctor. Emily's voice broke. My brother is not a mistake. Sloan's gaze slid to Emily, and her smile came back, thin, cruel, controlled. Your brother is unfortunate. There's a difference. Emily felt her vision blur with rage. She took a step toward Sloan, and the security guard shifted, ready. Nathan's voice snapped, sharp. Enough! Emily's heart leapt. Then Nathan turned to Emily, and his eyes looked tired for the first time. Emily, he said quietly, step outside. Emily stared at him. No. Nathan's jaw tightened. Now! Emily's voice shook. You told me you were going to help. Nathan's eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward the administrators, toward the weight of 100 watching eyes. I am. Emily swallowed hard. Then sign it. Nathan didn't answer right away. Sloan leaned in, voice low. Nathan, don't do this here. Not with them watching. Not with her forcing you. Emily watched Nathan's face. His jaw clenched. His eyes hardened. Then he did the worst thing he could do to Emily in that moment. He looked away from her, and he said to the administrator, clear the room. Emily's chest cracked open. What? Nathan's voice stayed calm. Noah needs rest. Dr. Bennett, proceed with what you can. I'll handle approvals through the proper channel. Dr. Bennett stared at him. disbelief and anger battling in her eyes. Proper channel. We'll kill him. Nathan's mouth tightened. I said I'll handle it. Emily stepped forward, desperate. Nathan! Sloan's voice cut in, soft and victorious. Thank you. Finally. The administrator gestured to security. Miss Carter, you need to leave this area. Emily shook her head, tears falling. I'm his sister. The guard stepped closer. Ma'am? Noah's eyes widened. His breathing sped up. He tried to sit up. Emily! Emily rushed to the bedside, grabbing his hand. I'm not leaving you, okay? I'm right here. The guard reached for Emily's arm. Dr. Bennett snapped, Don't touch her in front of him! The guard hesitated, but the administrator nodded. Do it. Emily felt fingers close around her arm. She looked at Nathan, eyes pleading. Nathan stood there, frozen, his face hard like stone, but his eyes were wet. He blinked once, fast, like he hated that too, and still, he didn't stop them. Noah's voice cracked, panicked. Please don't take her. Emily's throat closed. She squeezed Noah's hand so hard it hurt her own fingers. Breathe, baby. Look at me. Just look at me. Noah's eyes locked on hers. He whispered, Did I do something wrong? Emily broke. She kissed his forehead, tears dropping onto his skin. No, you're perfect. You're perfect. The guard pulled her gently but firmly away. Emily stumbled into the hallway, breath shaking, and the door to Noah's room closed behind her with a quiet click that sounded like a lock. She stood there, shaking, staring at the door like it had stolen her oxygen too. Sloan stepped out a moment later, smoothing her hair like she'd just left a meeting, not a child's bedside. She leaned close to Emily, voice low so only Emily could hear. You don't get to win, Sloan whispered. Not in my world. Emily's hands curled into fists. He's a child. Sloan's smile flickered. And Nathan is mine. Emily's voice trembled with rage. You don't even care if he dies. Sloan's eyes stayed bright and empty. I care that Nathan doesn't fall with him. Emily stared at her, sickened. Sloan stepped back, lifted her voice again so the hallway could hear. Security, please escort her back to her station and make sure she doesn't approach Mr. Blackwood again. Emily turned her head and looked down the hall. Nathan Blackwood was still there, standing near the door. He wasn't looking at Sloan. He was looking at the floor, jaw locked so tight his face trembled. Emily tried one last time, voice small and breaking. Don't do this. Nathan's eyes lifted to hers. For a second, his face looked like it might crack open. Then he said, quietly, I have to do this right. Emily's voice came out like a sob. Right for who? Nathan didn't answer. He turned and walked away with the administrators. Sloan followed him, heels clicking, head high. Emily stood in the hallway feeling like the world had just taught her the same lesson again. Power protects itself, and people like her get pushed aside. A nurse hurried up and pressed a paper into Emily's hand, whispering fast. They printed a transfer order. Emily looked down. Transfer pending. Approval required. Emily's stomach dropped because she knew what pending meant. It meant waiting, and Noah didn't have time for waiting. If you hate Sloan right now, hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if someone tried to pull you away from the person you love most right when they needed you? The hallway outside Noah's room felt colder after they pushed Emily out. Not colder in temperature, colder in meaning. Emily stood there with her back against the wall, staring at the door like it was a cliff edge. Behind that door, her brother was fighting for air. Out here, all she could do was listen to the machines and pray that the beeping didn't change. A nurse hurried by with a clipboard. Another nurse avoided Emily's eyes like shame was contagious. Emily's hands shook so hard she could barely hold the transfer paper. Transfer. Pending. Approval. Required. She read it again and again, like the words might soften if she stared long enough. They didn't. Nurse manager Karen Doyle approached from the end of the hall. Face tight, steps fast. She stopped in front of Emily, looked at the paper, and exhaled through her nose like she was trying not to curse. "They're moving him," Karen said. Emily's voice came out broken. "He can't handle a transfer." Karen's eyes flicked to the door, then back to Emily. "I know." Emily swallowed hard. Then, "Help me." Karen hesitated. Her lips pressed together. Her jaw worked like she was chewing on a decision that could cost her everything. Then she said, "Lo, where's the envelope?" Emily's eyes widened. "What?" Karen leaned closer. "The rumor is, you walked into Mr. Blackwood's suite with something." Her gaze sharpened. "Is it true?" Emily's hand flew to her bag. "It's not a rumor, it's real." Karen's eyes flashed, not with judgment, but with fear. The board is panicking. Security is looking for it, and that woman... She didn't say Sloan's name, but her mouth twisted like it tasted bitter. "She's making calls." Emily's throat tightened. "Sam is missing. He's hurt." Karen's face flickered. "The homeless man?" Emily snapped. "His name is Samuel Briggs." Karen's eyes widened for half a second. Then she looked away, fast, like she'd heard that name before and didn't want to admit it. Emily's voice dropped. "Do you know him?" Karen didn't answer directly. She said, "You want to save your brother? You need proof strong enough that even money can't bury it." Emily's chest heaved. "I have proof. The envelope. The dog tag." Karen's eyes locked onto hers. "Then use it." She glanced down the hall, voice tighter. "But not here. Come on." Karen led Emily into a side corridor marked staff only. The lights buzzed. The air smelled like old paper and disinfectant. They moved past a locked door, down a stairwell, and into a records room that felt like the basement of the world. Karen flicked on a light. Metal shelves, boxes, folders, a printer humming softly in the corner. She turned to Emily. "If anyone asks, you were never here." Emily's voice shook. "I don't care." Karen's face softened, just a little. "You will, when you're trying to pay rent and keep your brother alive." She swallowed. "Now, show me the dog tag." Emily pulled it out with trembling fingers. The cold metal rested in her palm like a truth that didn't care how scared she was. Karen stared at the service number and exhaled sharply. "Oh, Sam, what did you do?" Emily's heart pounded. "You do know him." Karen's mouth tightened. "I've seen him around for years." She glanced at the shelves. "And I've seen the way this hospital hides things." Emily stepped closer. "Then help me find what they hid." Karen went to a computer, typed fast, and pulled up an old database that looked like it belonged in another decade. Her fingers paused over the keyboard. "I'm risking my job," she muttered. Emily's eyes filled. "I'm risking my brother." Karen's jaw clenched. Then she hit enter. A list popped up. Most entries were blanked out. Lines marked restricted, names blocked. Karen typed the service number. The screen froze for a beat, then a file appeared. Patient, Briggs, Samuel. Status, redacted. Emergency contact, Blackwood, Nathan. Emily's breath stopped. Her hand flew to her mouth. "No!" Karen stared at the screen, like she'd been punched. "They kept it." Emily's voice broke. "Why would Nathan Blackwood be his emergency contact?" Karen clicked deeper into the file. A scanned document loaded slowly, line by line, an old consent form, a hospital seal, a signature at the bottom. The signature wasn't Nathan's. It was someone older. Blackwood? Eleanor. Karen whispered, almost to herself. His mother. Emily's chest tightened. His mother knew Sam. Karen's eyes stayed glued to the screen. Not just knew. She clicked again. A second scan appeared. A photo. Old. Faded. Taken with a cheap camera. A young woman in scrubs stood beside a man in army fatigues. Samuel Briggs. His face was younger, but it was him. Same eyes. Same stubborn set to his jaw. Beside him was a woman with tired eyes and a gentle smile, holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. The woman looked like Emily. Not exactly, but close enough that Emily's stomach dropped. Emily's voice came out as a whisper. That's my mom. Karen's head turned slowly. Grace Carter? Emily's throat closed. You knew her name. Karen swallowed. She worked here a long time ago. She was good. Too good for this place. Emily stared at the photo until her eyes burned. Her mother's face was alive in that moment. Not a memory. Not a grave. Not a story Emily told Noah when he couldn't sleep. Alive. Emily's breath shook. Sam promised to protect her. Karen's eyes softened. And he kept that promise, didn't he? By coming to you. Emily clutched the dog tag so tight it bit into her skin. Then why is Noah dying? Karen looked away. Because this place stopped being about people. A loud beep echoed faintly from above, even through the walls, a sound that didn't belong in a quiet records room. Emily froze. That's Noah's floor. Karen's face tightened. Go. Emily bolted. Upstairs. By the time Emily reached Noah's room, it was chaos. 2 nurses rushed in. Dr. Bennett's voice was sharp, urgent. A monitor beeped faster, angry, frightened. Emily tried to push through the doorway, but a nurse held her back. Emily, you can't. Emily shook her head violently. That's my brother. Noah's body was tense on the bed. His eyes were wide and wet. The oxygen mask fogged with each desperate breath. Emily saw Dr. Bennett lean close to Noah's ear, voice firm, trying to anchor him. She saw Noah's small hand reaching out into the air like he was looking for Emily without seeing her. Emily's heart split open. I'm here, she shouted. Noah, I'm here. Noah's eyes flicked toward the doorway. He saw her, and his face crumpled. He tried to speak, but he couldn't. Emily pushed past the nurse and grabbed Noah's hand for a second, 1 second, before they pulled her back again. Dr. Bennett looked up at Emily, eyes fierce. They're moving him, she snapped. Now, because that transfer order just became active. Emily went cold. No. Dr. Bennett's voice shook with rage. I tried, I begged, I wrote the appeal, and they stamped it like it was junk mail. Emily's legs almost gave out. Noah's eyes locked on hers, panicked. His lips moved under the mask. Emily leaned close enough to read it. Please. Then the nurses started disconnecting monitors, rolling equipment, moving his bed. Emily grabbed the rail. You can't take him! Security appeared in the hallway, like they'd been waiting for this moment. Karen Doyle stepped in between Emily and the guards, face hard. Let her say goodbye. One guard hesitated, another didn't. Emily bent down, kissed Noah's forehead, and whispered fast, broken, desperate. Listen, you keep breathing, you keep fighting. You hear me? I'm coming. Noah's eyes filled with tears. He squeezed her fingers, weak and shaking. Then the bed rolled out. Emily stumbled after it until security blocked her path. She stood there, frozen, as her brother disappeared down the hall, and she realized what pending really meant. It meant goodbye. Across town, Nathan Blackwood stood alone in his penthouse office with the envelope in his hand. The city lights outside were bright, clean, far away from hospitals. Sloan paced behind him, voice sharp. "This is what happens when you let staff cross lines. You looked weak." Nathan didn't turn. His face was still, but his jaw twitched once. Sloan stopped pacing and stepped close. "Give me the envelope." Nathan's eyes didn't move. "No." Sloan's voice turned sweet again, dangerous. "Nathan, please, hand it over. We will handle it quietly." Nathan's fingers tightened around the taped flap. "Quietly," he repeated like the word tasted rotten. Sloan leaned in. "If the board finds out your mother's name is on any of this, it becomes a scandal." Nathan's eyes flashed. "Don't say her name like it's a shield." Sloan's smile fell. "Fine." Her voice turned cold. "Then choose. Me and your future. Or that girl and her drama." Nathan's face didn't change, but his eyes hardened in a way Sloan didn't like. Sloan stared at him for a long moment, then snatched her purse off the chair. "Do what you want," she spat. "But don't expect me to stand beside you while you burn." She walked out and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the glass. Nathan stood still, alone, at the top, with all the money in the world and no air in his chest. He looked down at the envelope. His hand trembled again. Then he ripped the tape. Inside was a folded letter, worn soft by time, and a faded photo. Nathan's breath caught when he saw the photo. Samuel Briggs, in uniform. A young nurse, in scrubs. And his mother, Eleanor Blackwood, standing beside them, eyes red like she'd been crying. Nathan's throat tightened. He opened the letter. His eyes moved across the page, and the color drained from his face. Because the first line wasn't an accusation. It was a confession, and it started with words Nathan had never been able to forget. "Eleanor made me swear I would never speak. But a child is dying now, and I will not take that secret to my grave." Nathan's jaw locked. His eyes glistened, and his voice broke on a whisper. "Noah, if you're watching, and your heart is heavy for that little boy, please leave a prayer or a kind word in the comments for Noah. Even just a simple "stay strong" can mean something, especially to anyone out there who's fighting in a hospital room right now. Nathan read the letter standing up, but by the time he reached the second paragraph, his knees stopped trusting him. He sat down hard in his chair, the leather creaking under him like it didn't approve. The paper in his hands looked too small to carry what it carried. His mother's handwriting was in the margins, not a full note. Just a few words pressed into the side like a whisper she never got to say out loud. "Protect them." Nathan's throat tightened. Samuel Briggs had written the rest. The ink was uneven in places, like his hand had shaken while he tried to keep his nerve. Nathan's eyes moved faster. He saw names he hadn't spoken in years. Eleanor Blackwood, Grace Carter, Samuel Briggs. And then the line that made the room tilt. "Noah Carter is your son." Nathan blinked once, hard, like his eyes were lying. He read it again, the same words. His hand tightened around the paper until it wrinkled. He kept reading, breath shallow. Samuel wrote about a night long ago when Eleanor showed up at Mercy Ridge shaking, begging for help, begging for silence. He wrote how Grace Carter, a young nurse with tired eyes and strong hands, took Eleanor into an empty room and closed the door. He wrote how Sam stood outside that door like a guard. He wrote how Eleanor told Grace the truth, that Nathan had made a mistake, that Nathan had walked away, that he didn't know a child existed. Samuel wrote that Eleanor didn't excuse her son. She didn't paint him as a hero. She wrote that Eleanor was angry, heartbroken, but she also knew what the world would do to a nurse who carried a billionaire's secret. So Eleanor made Samuel swear he would protect Grace and the children. Swear he would hold the proof until the day Nathan was strong enough to face it. And then Samuel wrote the part that made Nathan's chest feel like it was caving in. Grace died. The kids were left alone. And the hospital, the board, and the people around Nathan used Eleanor's death like a chance to erase old promises. Samuel wrote that he tried to speak. He got shoved into the dark. He got labeled unstable, trespassing, nobody. Then he wrote one last line, the one that felt like a hand grabbing Nathan's throat. If the boy dies, it won't be because God didn't hear prayers. It will be because men with power chose not to listen. Nathan's eyes burned. His jaw locked so tight it hurt. He stared at the words, "your son," until he felt sick. Then his phone rang. He didn't answer at first. He couldn't move. The phone buzzed again, insistent, angry. He looked at the screen. Mercy Ridge Hospital. He answered. Dr. Bennett's voice came through, sharp and shaking. They moved him. Nathan's breath caught. What? They took Noah, she snapped. Transfer. The order went through. He's in an ambulance right now. Nathan stood so fast the chair nearly fell. His voice turned cold, dangerous. Where? Dr. Bennett rattled off details fast, barely holding her rage together. He's headed to Westbridge. He's not stable enough. I wrote it. I said it. They ignored me. Nathan's hand tightened around the letter until his knuckles went white. He said low, "I'm coming." He ended the call and strode to the door. Sloan's voice came from behind him, sharp. "Where are you going?" Nathan didn't look back. "To my son." Silence. Then Sloan laughed once, harsh and disbelieving. "Don't be ridiculous." Nathan stopped and turned slowly. His eyes were wet, but his face was stone. He held up the letter. Sloan's smile vanished. "What is that?" she whispered. Nathan's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Truth. Sloan took a step closer, eyes scanning the page. Her face tightened when she saw the names. Then her voice turned sweet again, panicked under the sugar. "Nathan, this is old. This is a setup. That woman used your mother." Nathan's eyes flashed. "Don't." Sloan swallowed. "Think about what you're doing. Investors are waiting. The merger meeting is in the morning. If you disappear, they will panic." Nathan's mouth tightened. "Let them." Sloan's eyes sharpened. "And me?" Nathan stared at her like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. "You were there," he said quietly. "At the hospital. You laughed." Sloan snapped. "I was protecting you." Nathan's voice dropped lower. "No! You were protecting your life." Sloan's face hardened. "Nathan, if you go down this road, the board will rip you apart. They will drag your mother's name through the dirt. They will call you unstable. They will call you reckless." Nathan stepped closer until Sloan's smile faltered. He said, "Good." Sloan blinked. "What?" Nathan's jaw clenched. "I deserve it." Then he turned and walked out. Sloan's heels clicked after him, faster now, angry. "Nathan, stop!" He didn't. He marched through the penthouse hallway, down the private elevator, into the night. In the hospital parking garage, Nathan's driver rushed to open the car door, eyes wide. Nathan didn't wait. He got in, breath tight, hands shaking, letter still in his fist like a weapon. "Mercy Ridge," he said. The driver hesitated. "Sir, traffic." "Now," Nathan snapped. The car shot forward. Nathan stared out the window, city lights blurring. He saw Noah's face in his mind, that small voice. "Tell him I said please." Nathan swallowed hard. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about money. He was thinking about time. At the ambulance bay, Nathan arrived like a storm. He pushed through the emergency entrance with his coat open, hair slightly out of place, eyes burning. Nurses froze when they saw him. A security guard stepped forward, then stepped back like instinct told him this was not the moment to play gatekeeper. Dr. Bennett met him in the hallway, face tight, fury and relief mixed together. "They left 10 minutes ago," she said. Nathan's voice went flat. "Call the ambulance." Bennett blinked. "I don't have that authority." Nathan looked at her. "You do now." He turned to a nurse. "Give me the dispatch number." The nurse hesitated, then handed him a card with trembling fingers. Nathan called. When the dispatcher answered, Nathan didn't introduce himself with a title. He introduced himself with power. "This is Nathan Blackwood," he said. "You have a child in one of your ambulances, Noah Carter. I am ordering you to pull over, now." The dispatcher stammered. "Sir, we can't just..." Nathan's jaw tightened. "You will, because if you don't, you will never work in this city again. And that is the smallest consequence." A pause. Then the dispatcher's voice changed. "Which unit?" Nathan got the unit number. Bennett rattled it off. Nathan's eyes locked on Bennett. "Get me a medical team at the overpass near Route 7. Bennett's brows lifted. "Route 7 is..." "Where the ambulance will stop," Nathan cut in. Bennett stared at him, then nodded once and started barking orders. Nurses moved. A trauma team formed like a wave. Emily came running down the hallway, hair messy, face wet, eyes wild. She stopped when she saw Nathan. For a second, neither of them spoke. Emily's voice came out raw. "Where is he?" Nathan held her gaze. His jaw trembled. He said quietly, "They took him." Emily's face crumpled. She looked like she might hit him, like she might collapse, like she might do both. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out the dog tag Karen had shown him from the file earlier, now in his hand, like he'd been holding it the whole drive. He didn't know why he did it, but he held it out anyway, palm open. Emily stared at it, shocked. "Where did you get that?" Nathan's voice broke just a little. "From the truth you brought me." Emily's breath shook. "Fix it," she whispered. Nathan nodded once. "I will." He didn't say, "I'll try." He didn't say, "I'll see." He said, "I will," like a promise that could cost him his life and he'd still pay. On the side of the road, the ambulance lights flashed against the night like a warning. It had pulled over under a highway sign, hazards blinking. Nathan's black car stopped hard behind it. Dr. Bennett's team arrived seconds later, wheels squealing, doors slamming. Nathan sprinted toward the ambulance. A paramedic stepped out, startled. "Sir, you can't..." Nathan didn't stop. "Move!" The paramedic moved. Nathan climbed into the back. Noah lay strapped to the stretcher, mask on, eyes half open, cheeks pale. His small hand twitched against the blanket like he was reaching for something he couldn't find. Nathan's throat tightened so hard it hurt. He dropped to his knees again, right there on the ambulance floor, suit and all. He leaned close, voice low, steady, like he was afraid loudness would scare Noah away. "Noah," he whispered. Noah's eyes flickered, slow. He tried to focus. Nathan swallowed. "It's me." Noah's lips moved under the mask. The paramedic leaned in. "He's asking, who?" Nathan's eyes filled. He said it anyway. "Your dad." The ambulance went quiet for a beat. Noah stared at him, confused, too tired to understand the whole world changing. Then Noah whispered, "Barely there. Please, don't leave." Nathan's face tightened like he was holding back a sob. "I'm not leaving," he said. Not again. He looked up at Dr. Bennett. He goes back to Mercy Ridge. He gets the procedure tonight. Bennett's eyes burned. They won't allow... Nathan's voice turned like steel. They will. Back at Mercy Ridge. Word spread faster than any official memo. By the time Nathan returned with the ambulance, the administrative wing was buzzing like a hive. Board members had been called in, lawyers were gathering, phones were ringing, people were panicking. Sloan arrived in the lobby with cameras behind her, like she'd summoned them. She stepped toward Nathan as he walked beside Noah's stretcher. She reached for Nathan's arm like she was still entitled. Nathan didn't let her touch him. Sloan's smile was bright for the cameras. Nathan, darling, this is a misunderstanding. Let's not make a scene. Nathan didn't look at the cameras. He looked at Noah. Then he looked at Emily, who walked on the other side of the stretcher, holding Noah's hand like she'd die before she let it go. Nathan turned back to Sloan. His voice was calm, but it shook the room. There's no misunderstanding, he said. There's only what you did. Sloan's smile faltered. Excuse me? Nathan held up Samuel Briggs's letter. Cameras zoomed in. Sloan's eyes widened. Nathan spoke clearly, for everyone. You told security to remove a wounded veteran. You pushed a dying child into a dangerous transfer to protect your image. Sloan's voice rose, sharp. That is a lie. Nathan didn't blink. He nodded to a nurse holding a tablet. Security footage played on the screen. Sloan's voice in the hallway, cold and certain. You don't get to win. The room went still. Sloan's face turned white. Nathan's voice dropped lower. You're done. Sloan snapped. Nathan, think about the board. Think about our engagement. Nathan's eyes didn't soften. He said quietly, there is no engagement. Sloan's mouth opened. No sound came out. Nathan turned to the board members who had just arrived, suits and smiles and controlled shock. He held Noah's gaze for one last second, then faced them. I am canceling the wing closure, he said, effective immediately. I am funding the procedure. I am releasing every hold, and if any of you try to stop it, I will expose every redacted file you've hidden behind my name. A board member stepped forward, voice tight. You can't. Nathan cut him off. Watch me. He turned back to Emily, eyes wet, jaw locked. He said, loud enough for the cameras and the board and the whole hospital to hear, take him to surgery. Emily's breath broke into a sob of relief. The stretcher rolled forward. Noah's hand stayed in Emily's. Nathan walked beside them, not in front, not above, beside. And as they passed Sloan, she stood frozen, her perfect world cracking in public, her face twisted with rage she couldn't hide. Nathan didn't look at her again. If this part hit you right in the chest, type the word heart in the comments. And tell me honestly, would you have had the courage to burn your whole life down to save one child? The hospital didn't feel like the same place after that. It was still Mercy Ridge, still bright lights, still tired nurses, still the smell of bleach and burnt coffee. But something invisible had shifted, like the air had stopped holding its breath. Emily stood outside the operating room with her hands clasped so tight her fingers ached. The waiting area was too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels loud because your mind fills it with every worse thought. Noah's little backpack sat on the chair beside her. It had a cartoon rocket on it and a zipper that stuck. Emily had fixed that zipper with a safety pin months ago because they couldn't afford a new bag. She kept staring at it like it was proof he belonged in the world. Dr. Bennett came out once to give an update. Her mask was pulled down around her neck. Her eyes looked tired but focused. He's stable, she said. We're moving. Emily's knees almost buckled. She whispered, thank you. Dr. Bennett's jaw tightened. "Don't thank me yet. Pray and breathe." Emily nodded, tears running down her face without sound. Karen Doyle sat 2 chairs away, arms crossed, staring at the floor. She didn't talk much, but she stayed, and that mattered. Nathan Blackwood stood on the other side of the hallway, alone at first. He had his phone in one hand, but he wasn't using it to talk money. He was using it to destroy it. Emily heard pieces of the calls as he paced. "No, we're not delaying." "Yes, cancel the merger meeting." "I don't care what they think. If the board votes to remove me, let them." His voice stayed calm, but it was different from before. It wasn't cold. It was resolved. At one point, an attorney arrived with a laptop and a tight face. "Mr. Blackwood, this is going to trigger lawsuits." Nathan's eyes didn't flinch. "Good." The attorney blinked. "Good?" Nathan looked down the hall toward the operating room doors. His jaw tightened. "I've been suing people with my silence for years," he said quietly. "Let them sue me with words." The attorney didn't know what to say to that. He walked away. Sloan didn't come back, but her presence stayed like a bruise in the building. The rumor moved fast. Engagement ended. Cameras captured it. Board members furious. Donors confused. Emily didn't care. All she cared about was that the doors to the operating room were still closed, that the clock kept moving, that her brother was inside. Hours passed in a blur. Emily's body went numb, then hot, then numb again. She pressed her hands against her mouth sometimes just to feel that she was still there. Every time the doors opened, her heart jumped. Every time they closed again, her stomach sank. Nathan stopped pacing at some point and sat down across from her, not in a chair far away, not behind a desk. He sat on the floor back against the wall, tie loosened, sleeves rolled, looking like a man who didn't know how to be still but was forcing himself to try. Emily stared at him. "You don't have to stay." Nathan's eyes lifted to hers. They were red around the edges. He said quietly, "Yes, I do." Emily swallowed hard. "Why?" Nathan's throat moved. His voice came out rougher than before. "Because if I walk away again, I'll never find my heart." Emily looked down at Noah's backpack. "You don't get to fix everything with one night." Nathan nodded once. "I know." Emily's voice shook. "He almost died because you were worried about proper channels." Nathan flinched like she'd hit him because she had. He didn't defend himself. He didn't explain. He just said, "I was wrong." Emily stared at him, searching for the usual excuse rich men offered. The speech, the justification, the blame. None of it came. Nathan's jaw trembled slightly. He added softer, "I was cowardly." That word landed hard. Cowardly. Emily hadn't expected him to say it. Nathan stared down at his hands like he didn't know them. "My mother used to tell me, if you have power and you use it to protect yourself, you're not strong. You're just scared with a suit on." Emily's chest tightened. She knew about Noah. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. "Yes," Emily's voice broke, "and she let us suffer." Nathan's eyes opened, wet. "No, she didn't." He swallowed hard. "She helped from the shadows, money through charities, quiet favors, and she made Samuel promise to protect you." His voice cracked slightly. "But she also never told me, not directly." Emily's hands clenched. "Why?" Nathan's face tightened with pain. "Because she didn't trust me to be worthy of the truth, and she was right." Emily's throat closed. Nathan continued, voice low. "I thought I was building something that lasted, a legacy, but I was just building walls around myself." Emily's eyes burned. "My mom worked here. She died, and I never knew you were connected to any of it." Nathan's voice turned almost broken. "Grace Carter saved my mother's life." Emily froze. "What?" Nathan nodded once. "Years ago, my mother had a collapse in this hospital. She didn't want press. She didn't want anyone to know. Your mother kept her secret. She treated her like a person, not a headline." Emily's breath shook. "Why didn't my mom tell me?" Nathan's eyes lowered. "Because secrets keep poor people employed." Emily felt the truth of that in her bones. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Just the quiet hum of the hospital, the distant footsteps, the faint sound of machines behind closed doors. Then the operating room doors opened. Dr. Bennett stepped out. Her face was tired. Her shoulders looked heavy. And then she smiled. Just a small smile. Emily's whole body surged forward. "Is he?" Dr. Bennett nodded. "He made it through." Emily's legs gave out. She sank to her knees right there in the hallway, sobbing into her hands. Karen Doyle rushed over, kneeling beside her, one arm around her shoulders. "It's okay," Karen murmured. "It's okay." Emily shook, crying hard, relief pouring out like a storm that had been held back too long. Nathan stood slowly. He didn't speak. He just pressed his hand to his mouth for a second, like he was trying not to fall apart. Then he looked at Dr. Bennett. "When can I see him?" Dr. Bennett's eyes narrowed. "Are you going to make this about you now?" Nathan's jaw tightened. He shook his head quickly. "No." He swallowed. "I'm going to make it about him, for the rest of my life." Dr. Bennett studied him for a beat. Then she said, "Give it a little time. He's weak. He needs calm." Nathan nodded. Emily wiped her face, embarrassed by nothing, because there was nothing embarrassing about loving someone that much. Dr. Bennett's eyes shifted to Emily. "You can sit with him when he wakes, only one person at first." Emily's heart lifted. "Me?" Dr. Bennett nodded. "Yes." Nathan didn't argue. That alone shocked Emily. He just stepped back, giving her space like he knew he hadn't earned closeness yet. Emily walked into Noah's room carefully. The lights were dimmer now. The machines were quieter. Noah lay still, pale but breathing easier, his small chest rising and falling in a steadier rhythm. Emily sat beside him and took his hand. His fingers were warm. Emily closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Noah's eyelashes fluttered. His eyes opened slowly. He looked around like he was trying to remember where he was. Then his gaze found Emily. He whispered, voice scratchy, "Did I win?" Emily let out a laugh through tears. "Yeah, baby, you won." Noah blinked slowly. "Is the rich man mad?" Emily turned her head toward the doorway. Nathan stood there, just inside the hall, not entering, not pushing, watching like a man afraid to break something sacred. Emily looked back at Noah. "He's not mad." Noah frowned slightly. "Is he still rich?" Emily gave a shaky smile. "Probably." Noah stared at Nathan, then whispered to Emily. "He looks sad." Emily swallowed hard. "Yeah." Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said something so simple and so pure it hit Emily like a wave. "Tell him. He can come in. But he has to be nice." Emily laughed softly again, then nodded. "Deal." She stood and walked to the door. Nathan looked at her, eyes searching. Emily said quietly, "He wants you to come in. But," her voice tightened, "you have to be nice." Nathan's lips trembled, almost a smile, almost a sob. "Okay." He stepped into the room slowly, like every step was a promise. He walked to the side of the bed and stopped. He didn't touch Noah right away. He just looked at him. Noah stared back, serious. Nathan lowered himself again, not because anyone made him, because he chose it. He knelt beside the bed, bringing his face level with Noah's. Noah whispered, "You said no." Nathan's throat moved. His eyes shined. He nodded once. "I did." Noah frowned. "Why?" Nathan swallowed. He didn't say numbers. He didn't say policy. He said the truth a child could understand. "Because I was scared," Nathan whispered. Noah blinked. "Rich people get scared?" Nathan let out a broken breath that sounded like a laugh and a cry at the same time. "Yes," he said, "and sometimes they hide it by being mean." Noah stared at him for a long moment. Then Noah's small hand moved weakly and touched Nathan's sleeve. Not forgiving everything, not fixing the past, just touching. Nathan's face crumpled. A tear slipped down his cheek, fast and helpless. Emily watched it and felt her own chest loosen, because that tear looked like something real finally escaping a prison. Nathan whispered, "I'm sorry." Noah's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you sorry like forever?" Nathan nodded. "Forever." Noah thought about that. Then he whispered, "Okay, but you have to help my sister too." Nathan's eyes lifted to Emily. Emily's stomach tightened because she wasn't ready to need him. Not after everything. Nathan's voice came out steady. "I will." Noah yawned, exhausted. His eyes started to close again. Before he drifted, he whispered one last thing, small and certain. "Don't leave." Nathan's voice cracked. "I won't." Noah fell asleep. Emily sat back down holding Noah's hand. Nathan stayed kneeling for a moment longer, then slowly sat on the chair by the wall like he didn't deserve the spot beside the bed yet. The room stayed quiet, just breathing. Just the soft beep of a machine that no longer sounded like a warning. Later, the hospital released a statement. Not a perfect one, but a real one. The wing closure was canceled. The board launched an internal investigation. The security contractors were replaced. The staff who tried to silence nurses were removed. And in a small ceremony in a quiet room, away from cameras, the army returned. Not to scare Emily this time, but to honor Samuel Briggs. Captain Turner, same steady face as before, stood in front of Emily with a folded flag and a medal in his hands. He spoke softly. "Samuel Briggs served this country, and he served your family. He made sure the truth didn't die." Emily's hand shook as she accepted the flag. Nathan stood behind her, silent, eyes red. When the captain left, Nathan stepped forward and spoke quietly. "Emily," he said. Emily didn't turn right away. Nathan swallowed. "I can't undo what I did." His voice trembled. "But I can live differently." Emily finally looked at him. Nathan's jaw tightened. "I want to help you, not with a check and a press release. With time, with showing up, with being what I should have been." Emily's eyes burned. "You don't get to buy your way into our lives." Nathan nodded. "I know," he exhaled. "So I won't ask to be inside. I'll ask to be close enough to earn it." Emily stared at him for a long moment. She thought of Sam's bruised face. She thought of her mother's tired smile in that photo. She thought of Noah's tiny voice saying, "Please." Emily's voice came out soft, shaking. "Start by finding Sam." Nathan's eyes sharpened. "I will." He didn't say it like a promise for show. He said it like a mission. Weeks later, Noah came home with a stitched scar and a laugh that sounded lighter than it had in months. Emily sat on the couch in their small living room, watching him build a tower out of plastic blocks. Nathan stood in the doorway, holding a grocery bag like a man who didn't know where to put his hands in a normal home. Noah looked up, eyes bright. He pointed to the floor by him. "Sit," Noah said, like it was an order. Nathan blinked. On the floor? Noah nodded. Yeah, you have to be lower. That's the rule. Emily's mouth trembled, almost smiling through tears. Nathan hesitated, then slowly lowered himself to the carpet. He sat down on the worn rug, expensive suit meeting cheap fibers, and he didn't flinch. Noah handed him 2 blocks. Build. Nathan's hands shook slightly as he took them. He looked at Noah. I'm not good at this. Noah shrugged. You can learn. Nathan's throat tightened. He looked over at Emily, like he was asking permission without words. Emily didn't give him forgiveness, not yet. But she didn't kick him out either. She just said quietly, don't break his trust. Nathan nodded once. I won't. Noah leaned his head against Nathan's arm for a moment, sleepy and safe. Nathan didn't move. He just sat there, breathing, like he was afraid the smallest motion might ruin the miracle of being allowed to stay. Emily watched them and felt something in her chest that wasn't forgiveness yet. But it was the beginning of healing. And when the sun dipped low through the window, the room glowed warm and soft, the way it does when pain finally starts to release its grip. Because in the end, it wasn't about how much money Nathan Blackwood had. It was about what he finally did with his power when nobody was watching. If this story touched your heart, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Share this with someone who needs a little hope today. And click the next video on the screen right now, because the next story might be the one that stays with you all night.